couple of other housekeeping items real quick here. We do offer an app. There's no charge to download the app. There are currently two modules that you can utilize inside the app, and they are the US Business module and the US Consumer Lifestyles module. So both of those are going to be available. When you go to launch the app, it will ask you to put in your zip code, and then it will present the libraries in that area. Once you've identified yours, you click on it and put in your library card number, and you're ready to go. The other option that we give you here, you are able to download record information if you would like, and I'll certainly show you that. You're able to print that information off, but if you would rather save your search or searches and come back to them at a later date and time, you can sign up for a personal account. So once you've registered using your email address and whatever password you may create for yourself, you would be able to log in and save any of the searches that you would do using any of these modules, except for the jobs and internships. This one, you can actually email yourself information, but you can't save that. And the reason that might become instrumental or powerful in your universe is the fact that, for example, the US Business information, we're in Omaha, Nebraska, and we have about 350 folks that call verify businesses, and we do this annually. So the first trigger to begin that update is when the phone books are sent to us. Nowadays, they're all sent digitally, thank goodness, but we bump our current database up against that listing of all those phone numbers that we've gotten for those businesses, and anything that's recognized as a current business record would get rejected. Anything that's new would get accepted, and then we begin this calling campaign. So we call businesses once annually to verify, obviously, the name of that business, address information. Since they answered the phone, we know the phone number is correct. We're asking them for information like who's the owner or manager of that business, what line of business are you in, or lines of business might you be in, how many employees do you have. So we capture this information and then we make it available in our records, which I'll show you momentarily here. So that update, we're pushing those updates out every week. Thursday into Friday morning, we're pushing all that business information that we've gotten during that last week live. Our US historical business records, this technically gets updated at the beginning of each and every year. So I'm not certain how much you may have heard as I was relating to this particular module.
I think if you can just, if you can just maybe backtrack maybe a minute. I think you were talking about the businesses and lifestyles. If you just go over that one more time.
So with the new movers, new homeowners, we're getting this information through our relationship. We're fully licensed to bump our database up against the national change of address. So that's where we're capturing that move data, and then we're updating this module weekly. So some great information depending on who you want to market or reach out to related to your products or services.
Bill, I'm sorry to interrupt really quickly.
You bet.
I don't know if you're going to get to this or not, but there's a question. Does the database contain information about employee metrics such as percentage of male versus female, diversity numbers, etc.?
Great question. No, it does not. We don't ask them to verify or provide us with that kind of data. That's starting to kind of get into the personality of the business and how they built their business. So we don't do that. We do allow you. There is the ability for you to go in and select leadership, and you can do that certainly using some various filters, and I'll show you that here in a second. The nice thing about all of these modules is the fact that they all search the same way. It's just different criteria that you're going to use to build your search. So I'll open up the US business database. And when I come into any of the modules, I'm always going to be presented with this quick search screen first. Great for looking at perhaps one company. I want to get some information about one company. I could certainly do that. I could also do a last name, first name. Maybe there was an executive that I worked with at another company and they've moved on. I'm not certain the name of the company that they're now with. I could try that first name, last name, executive name search. Hopefully you have the city and state information available for that person. Narrow that field a little bit. And of course, I even have the ability to do a reverse phone number lookup. So if I had a phone number, but I wasn't certain what business that may have been with, I could do a reverse phone number search for that. Most of the time, though, people are using the advanced search to get additional filters. By the way, that will also go to the advanced search universe. So let me open up the advanced search here. And I have all of these filters on this left-hand column. So beginning here, in fact, you'll note the very first filter is company name. So we give you the ability under quick search to look at one company. This would give you the ability to look at companies by name. So if IBM were one of them, you could add that to your list. If Starbucks were one of them, you could add that to your list. And you can keep adding as many businesses by name that you want to look at, and then you select your geography in order to produce those results. Otherwise, we'll always give you company name. We'll always give you this executive information as well. If someone needed to know about those businesses in the database that have an owner present, for example, maybe you only want to work with those businesses that have an owner present. You could use that as one of your filters and only get those records that have that owner identified on it. Or maybe you would be willing, if there weren't an owner, you would perhaps take the manager. So you could do it that way as well. You get to be the driver here. Maybe you only want to know about female-led businesses. You could do that. And you can see here we have the ethnicity filter. So if you would like to use that, you could certainly do so. Know that all of those filters are available. And if you don't select them, we'll give it all to you anyway in the record itself. Keyword search under business type is typically how people search the database. We do have listed in each and every record both the SIC codes, which is standard industrial classification, or we also have the NAICS codes. The NAICS have technically replaced the SIC codes, at least in the eyes of the government, but we've kept the SICs going because so many of our customers continue to want to use those. But we do have the North American Industrial Classification System codes in there as well. The major industry group, I liken it to SIC codes on steroids. And let me show you why I say that. So when Uncle Sam was managing the SIC codes, they were at longest a 4-digit number. So let's look under construction here, for example. Notice I've got these 3 codes, 15, 16, and 17. If I click on that plus symbol, it breaks that out for me and gives me a definition for each of those codes. Then, if I wanted to go under this general contractors, I can click that plus symbol again and get to those 4-digit codes. That was the extent that you could go using the SIC codes when Uncle Sam was using these. We took it a step further and made them a bit more granular by adding at least 2 additional numbers to that. So we've given it now a 6-digit number, and you can see how granular you can get. So if you only wanted to get to garage builders, you could get to that type of business that's their primary line of business. So know you have a couple of different ways by which to look at businesses by type. The geography kind of speaks for itself. I will show you this map-based search tool, which is in many of our modules, not in all of them, but many of them. So that's a great tool to use in some situations. Certainly the phone information kind of speaks for itself. I'd mentioned that we ask those businesses for the number of employees that they have at their location. About 72% of the businesses will give us an exact number. You know, we've got 5 employees or we have 17. If they don't give us a response, if they say, you know, I'm not comfortable answering that question, or I'm not certain, we're in the midst of hiring, if they say something like that, what we'll do is we'll look at their peers and identify an average, and then we'll give you a range. So instead of seeing an exact number, you'll see like a 1 to 4, or a 5 to 9, or a 10 to 19. When you see that in the record, just know that that was because they didn't respond to the question. So we looked at their peers and gave them that range. Conversely, as it relates to sales volume, we learned a long time ago, you don't call up Bob's Garage down the street and ask them how much money they're making annually and not have that phone call perhaps end rather abruptly, right? So we have a team that puts together an algorithm that then produces this sales volume number on each and every record when it's not a public company, of course. So what we'll do is we'll look at the type of business they're in, or lines of business that they're in, because they could be doing multiple things, right? We'll look at that line of business. We'll look at where they're in business at, because there are different expenses depending on where their business is physically located. Certainly anywhere in the country. We'll also look at how long they've been in business, how many employees they have. That employment number comes in handy for us, as well as some information that we get through the Bureau of Labor and Statistics in order to complete that algorithm and produce that sales volume. So when you see that and it's a private company, that's modeled information, as is the business expenditures that are listed here as well. So know that, but if it's public, if it's a publicly traded company, then that sales volume is coming from their 10K report. So we have ownership options here. I do like to point out that if you were doing a generic search, looking at any type of business in a geography that's important to you, home-based businesses may be produced. So if I don't select anything here, I'll always get home-based businesses included in my record. Now, if I open this up, notice I could only look at home-based businesses, or I could exclude them from my record. So know that you could filter those kinds of things out here. That is always something that you can do. We'll provide this financial information where that's available. We do have some special selections here. I do like to point out that if you're looking for newer businesses in a particular geography, I would use years in the database and look at the last year or two for those businesses that may have opened up in your area. That is always going to be available to you. The professionals, all are one. So this is referring to doctors and dentists and CPAs and attorneys. We added this filter because we were told by some of our library customers that not in every case did someone that was going to be making a list that they were intending to mail to Not in every case did they want to reach out to every single attorney in the office. They may just want to reach out to one primary. So you could, because it always defaults to all, you could switch that up to one, and that way it would reduce the total number of records that you would have. And if you were doing a mail campaign, you can imagine you'd save some of your funds by having that number reduced. So those are available to you. And then we give you a variety of ways to omit information. For example, if we were to look at my community has a lot of ATM machines. So if I didn't want ATMs to show up in my general search, I could come up here for my keyword search and look at, identify those ATMs, searching for that SIC code along with the description for ATMs. Once I have it, I can select it and move it down here so that when I produce my results, those ATMs will never show up in my results. And there it is. That's it for all automated teller machines. And that way I never have to worry about seeing that. We also have kiosks in the database. So for example, those kiosks where you exchange uh, propane, those are in the database. If you have red boxes in your community, those are in the database. So if I didn't want those types of additional businesses or records to show up, I could omit them as well. And as long as I leave that in there, I can certainly do that. Let's do this for a moment. Let's look at uh, your entire county.
Hey, Bill, if you can just
Yes,
pause for a moment.
you bet.
And if someone was saying, Jim was saying that there was a poor sound connection, if someone else in the chat can just let us know if there is a sound issue on your end as well. We just want to make sure that we can. Okay, so no issue from Allison. Okay, I'm sorry, Jim, that you're having sound issues. You might want to log out and then maybe log back in. Maybe it's just the node that you happen to be connected to. You could try that. And I apologize that you're having that issue. If you, yes, so to adjust the sound setting in Zoom, you'll notice on the bottom there's a link for the audio settings. Should be a little arrow next to audio, and then you can click on audio settings, depending upon what system you're using. If you're on a phone, I believe it's a gear icon. Okay, Bill, we can continue, and I apologize again for the sound issues.
No problem. Thank you. So I put in your county, I want to show you a couple of tools, and this is kind of an interesting way to do this. I've selected your county, and let's view those results. So I'm only looking at our verified records at this point in time. There are some 79,000 businesses across the county. The tool I want to show you here in a couple of different examples is our charts filter. So what this will do is it will make sense of these 79,000 businesses. And the way it does that is it gives you a breakdown by type, by SIC code. So in this case, let's take a look at this. It's giving me, as it notes here, all those SIC code. And at first it produces the top 7. So out of those 79,000 businesses, a little over 16,000 of them make up this top 7 group. So you can see physicians comes in here in essence in the first position, simply because every community has so many physicians and surgeons. They're all 1099 guys and gals, so they are in essence their own business. Followed by, in your case, restaurants, then attorneys. Oh, and you have a few automated teller machines around as well. Then real estate, dentists, and insurance. Then if you scroll down, it gives you a full report. And notice how lengthy this report is. It's 181 pages, but it gives you all of the SIC codes, their primary description, and then how many records we have that apply to all of those. So if I wanted to get to this group of beauty salons, I can hyperlink using this number and get right to that group of 854 records. So know that you can certainly do that if you would like to, in order to be able to get to the kind of information you need. I'm going to cheat though, and I'm going to go back here because I want to show you something else. So know that you can print this information or you can make it part of a PowerPoint presentation. The other tool I want to show you, and we have certainly several here, is employment size. Let's look at your community, your county from employment size. So notice, in that range of 1 to 4, nearly 60% of the businesses across your county employ that size range, that 1 to 4. Then it's followed by that 5 to 9, 10 to 19. You get the idea. So it gives you that. It also gives you some of those larger employers, and then a breakdown by that employment size. So know you can also look at information from this standpoint. Again, all printable or can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. And I'll come back to this example here momentarily with another example I'm going to show you. But for right now, I'm going to go back to these records. I'm going to revise my search. There's so many other filters that I can use to get to the types of businesses that are important to me. I am going to do this. We'll leave the county there for now and use that as our driver. Notice I am searching only those verifieds. We do have unverified records, and so there may be some hidden treasure there in that when we went to verify that business, we couldn't get a hold of them. So when we're making those phone calls, we don't give up just after one attempt. We'll try a dozen times throughout the course of 2 years to keep a business record verified. If we can't keep that business verified at that point in time, we move it into this unverified status. We don't necessarily give up on it at that point. We continue to roll those in periodically on a schedule to see if we can't get someone to answer that phone. But if that's the case, we'll keep them in verified until we either learn that they're closed or that we can get them verified. So know that you could certainly check this universe and perhaps find businesses. You may also see unverified businesses that you know about in your own community that are in fact closed. You can always let us know about that. I'll show you how you can tell us about an update to any single business record. So I've got verified businesses across your county. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at, and I'm just going to use restaurants, for example, because there are always so many of them. I'm going to search for that SIC code. Here's my SIC code for all restaurants. So this would be fine dining as well as fast food. Now notice, this is a 6-digit SIC code, but we even became very much more granular here. Let me show you this. So for example, if I just wanted certain types of restaurants, restaurants that serve chicken or that serve Brazilian or Japanese, I could get to that granular level. Notice we have given that an additional code here. And if I go down further, I can even get to the various chains. So if I wanted to only look at those Bonefish Grill locations in a particular area, I could certainly do that as well. But in this case, I want to look at all restaurants. So I'm going to click on that, add that to my selected field. Now I could be adding other types of industries here if I wanted to look at dry cleaners, hotels, hospitals, schools, doesn't matter. I could certainly do that, but I'm going to leave it with restaurants for now. We have your county. So notice I'm searching all SIC codes. So when I do that and update my count, my goodness, I come up with 3,700 restaurants across your county. So something I'd like to show you is if I switch it up to primary only, look what this does to my total. So it drops it down to just a little over 3,000. So what it got rid of are, for example, convenience stores that also have a few tables and call themselves a restaurant. We got rid of bowling alleys that also have a little restaurant in them. So we've filtered out those businesses that aren't truly just a restaurant. So I'm going to view those results. And I want to be able to put these back on that chart filter since we just looked at that. Now, as you can imagine, no longer am I going to be looking at the top SIC codes, but rather the top 7 cities across the county. So it gives me that breakdown with that information. Again, I get that full report down below with all of the different communities. And that's 6 pages in length. And let's do this. Let's look at employment size now. From this standpoint, from one industry standpoint. So in our previous example, when we were looking at the entire county with all businesses, 1 to 4 obviously was up here in this top spot at 60 some, at about 60%. Now 5 to 9 is the size range that sits atop this position now at 55, almost 56%, followed by 1 to 4, then 20 to 49, 10 to 19, you get the idea. So it's a great way to be able to look at the size of that industry based on either number of employees, or you could even change that up to sales volumes. So it just depends on what you would like to do. Again, this is all printable or could be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. So know that that is something you can utilize. And another tool that we rolled this out probably, I want to say, probably 8 years ago, and that's our heat map. This has been a great addition because it helps you make sense of these 3,000 some odd businesses. And what it does is it puts them on a density map. And I am going to need to drill in on this. Oh, recenter that. There's my density map for the area. And where it's red, there are lots of restaurants, yellow, less, green, even less. So know that you can look at it from that perspective as well. And we're just looking at your county. You can look at this or use this tool for anywhere in the United States that you might be doing business with certain types of businesses. So know that that can be a great way to look at your business. Again, this can be printed off or made part of a PowerPoint presentation. In fact, I have done these programs now for a number of years and have had many lenders that have been in these presentations, and they love to be able to see this perspective. It helps them to understand this 3,000 records. And then, of course, down below, we've given you the top 50, not quite 50, zip codes across the area with how many of those records apply to each of those zip codes. So know that that is something that you can utilize anytime for any industry. I'm going to revise my search here. And I'm also going to throw in some filters like, let's do sales volumes. We can throw in some sales volumes. We could also throw in, show me those businesses with web addresses. if you would like that, if that would be useful. I know that we get lots of web designers, and of course, they want to see this audience, right? Those without web addresses. So what does that do to my total? Drops it down to 530. So you can see how you can begin applying additional filters in order to narrow the funnel. If that is something that you need to be able to do. If this were an audience that you wanted to reach out to, you could certainly use that as a frame. You get to do whatever makes sense to you. So I'm going to review these results again. And I want to point out, if you've never used the database, you can take out 1,000 records at a time. So since we only have 530, I could download all of these results in one fell swoop, right? Easiest way to do that is put a check mark. Now you're going to need to do this 22 times. Put a check mark next to company name. It grabs all of those records, and then you would simply advance to page 2 and repeat that step. You get the idea. Once you've reached the end, we'll pretend that I have, then you simply go to download. If you're going to use this to make mailing labels, you definitely want to leave it in comma delimited. It still puts it into a form of Excel. If the name of the company, address, phone number, and some of these additional elements like who that owner or manager is, their name, of course, number of employees, sales volume, line of business, if that is enough information for you, you can leave it default to summary. And this is exactly what you would get. You're going to get this Excel document that you could then save and begin doing whatever you needed to do with now that you have that downloaded. So know that you can, and if there were, let's say that there were 2,000 records. Let's imagine that for a moment. So this is my first group of 1,000, we'll say. So at this point in time, I would suggest, unless you don't mind saving 2 separate documents, you could open up your own version of Excel and then come up here to this position between cell 1 and A and click there and then copy this information, drop it on your own version of Excel, because my pages are all static. You can't add anything more to my pages, but you certainly could with your own. So if you wanted to do that, you would copy this and then paste it to yours, minimize yours. Then you would simply come back here and close mine. And at this point in time, it leaves you right here. You simply need to select the word back. And if there were more records to obtain, let's pretend that this is page, that would be page 100. So let's imagine that that's where we were at. Now you do need to get rid of the, oh goodness sakes, what is this? It's asking me to reboot, but I'm not going to do that now. So at that point in time, what you can do is simply revise search. It doesn't forget how you built your search, then view your results. It brings you back to page 1. It's gotten rid of all those check marks. And then you just need to remember what page number you left off on and put that page number in. So I was technically on page 5, so I'll say page 6 and enter. And it brings you then to that page in order to start getting more downloads.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt here. Very quickly, can you just redo how you selected the parameters here in your export file, how you select the data fields?
Oh, yes. So you're referring to the download itself?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Okay. I'm just going to go back to page 1 and enter. Much quicker than clicking back a bunch of times. So first step is always going to be selecting the records. So it will identify all those records that I've selected. And I'll stop there. I'll do my download. That's when it brings me to this page in order to select what I want to do. So again, if I'm going to make mailing labels, definitely want to leave it in there. Summary, it gives me the summary option, which is what I chose. It's given me a lot of information here. You could download the entire record, might be a bit of overkill, or you could customize how you want your output to look. So let's say that I'll select custom this time. So custom starts with these particular fields being selected automatically. If you knew you were only looking at verified records, maybe you wouldn't want this record type, so you could remove that. But notice it doesn't say number of employees here. If that were something that were important to you, you could start to generate that and say, show me that location size actual. And maybe you also wanted the executive title, right? You could certainly get the executive title. And so you can say, show me those executives and those titles by name, and you can get all of them. Some of our records will have multiple executives, so you can get that granular if you need to. Then it's just a matter of selecting the download. Here's my Excel spreadsheet with the information that I asked for. And again, this page is static. You can't add to it. But if you wanted to, you could copy and paste from here and then drop that into your own version of Excel and keep getting more records. So it just depends on how you would like to do that. If that's the case, you would minimize yours, close mine. It leaves you right back here. You simply select the word back. It leaves you on the page that you were last on. Then you select Revise Search. Then view your results again. And it's cleared out all those check marks and has left you on page 1. So it just depends on how you would like to work that. If you wanted to then go on to the next page to get additional records, you could certainly do that. So that's how the download process would work each and every time. And it doesn't matter what module we're in, you would still follow that same practice. Obviously, it's going to be different information, but the process is the same. And I do want to show you this since we're on this page. I'll use Arby's for example here. So when we called, they did not give us that executive information in either of these locations. What I want to show you though here is this corporate tree structure. If I select the up arrow, it will take me to one record, and that would be the subsidiary that manages all the Arby's. And if there weren't one, then it would take me to the ultimate parent. In either case, I'll only get one record here. This will give me their entire organizational flow chart. So let me open that up. And here's Arby's. And notice it's starting with your location, even though alphabetically that wouldn't be the way it would play out. So it gives me this Arby's location, which is managed, as they all are, by Inspire Brands, but they're actually owned by this private equity firm out of Atlanta, Georgia. And under the umbrella of this private equity firm, they have 37 subsidiaries. Over 23,000 branches. There is a legend that runs across the top here. So if I needed to know what this PV stood for, I can quickly identify that that's a private company. If I would like to see these other subsidiaries, what other types of businesses are under this umbrella? You can either close this subsidiary or scroll down. I'll just close this one. And here are all the other companies that are under the Roark Capital Group umbrella. companies that I'm sure you're familiar with. So a wealth of data, just really in a matter of a couple of clicks. And if, for example, I wanted to get to these Sonic restaurant locations, I can open up that subsidiary, and then it presents me with all of those Sonic locations. So if I were looking at this Arby's record because I maybe wanted to sell something to Arby's, now I've uncovered a much larger universe that I could potentially sell something to. So know that that is always something that you have available whenever you see that corporate tree structure. Now, if the company actually has a subsidiary or excuse me, a foreign parent, we stop at the border in the US. So if we were looking at Saks Fifth Avenue, for example, they're owned by Hudson Bay. Hudson Bay is a Canadian company. So we don't go across that international line to Hudson Bay. We stop at the subsidiary here in the US. I can always get back to my original list. And let's do this. Let's just open this Arby's record. We'll use this for an example here. Each and every record is going to be set up just like this. We're always going to have this location information first. We have that web address, some of those social links. Notice I also have access to that corporate tree structure here. Now, if there were any job positions that were through Indeed, and Indeed also aggregates from other sources, those would be captured and put here. We have that industry profile. So there's my SIC code that I used to drive in all restaurants. Then I have a business profile, followed by, of course, we work with Google, so we have Google Maps embedded in here as well. And this is a perfect example. So we updated this record, which we do annually. We last updated this in September. They did not give us an exact number of employees. So we looked at their peers in that same industry and applied this range. For one moment, let's imagine that you knew one of the managers at this location, and that person happened to tell you that they had, let's say that they had 42 employees. You could tell us about that. And you do so either at the very top of the record or at the very bottom using this data feedback button. You can open this up and it denotes that you can put a check in that box next to those items that need to be researched or updated. So there could be multiple here, right? But let's say it's just the number of employees. You would simply come down here, erase that number there and put in your 42. Then you would fill out this information, submit this query to us. We will send you an automatic response immediately that we got your query, and then we'll send you the resolution to your query in 7 to 10 business days. So that can be done on any of our records. In this case, I'm going to go back to that record because I want to show you the other sections here. So we didn't get that management information. It would be nice, since you knew that person, you could pass that along to us as well. Company name, or excuse me, company news, company name. We capture this information. Last time was on the 17th. This is through Bing. And you'll notice this goes quite a ways back. So you could go back in time and look at some of these older articles. We're getting all of this information through Bing. And they update that on the fly. So you could come back into this record this afternoon and see some updates, perhaps. Stock data, there isn't any because it's not a publicly traded company. Otherwise, we would have that information listed there. Then you have some business expenditures. and just this one record. So it's this is a newer record in our database at this location. Then we have UCC filings, and there are none for this business. But if they had taken out a note, a loan, and put something up as collateral, that would be captured in that UCC filing. Then we have nearby businesses because we have the latitude and longitude embedded in the background on each and every record. And then we also have a list of competitors based on that SIC code. So that's always going to be set up just like that. Any questions on the business record or how I got here?
Let's see here if anyone comes up in the chat. I think so far there are none.
Okay.
We can keep going. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's take a look at a couple of other of our modules. I'm just going to select Reference Solutions. That's my home key. So it brings me back to that first page. And let's do this. Let's take a look at the consumer lifestyles. So we're getting this information from a variety of sources. Magazines that people have sent to their home, surveys that people have completed, warranty cards that people have submitted, membership subscriptions. In fact, I used to not be in the database when I first moved back into the Omaha city limits. I used to live out in the country, and I ended up, because it was convenient to where I was living, I started going to a retailer called Pals. Eventually, because I was there frequently enough, my dog ate like a horse, that they offered me a Pals card. And I said, oh, tell me about this. And they explained it. And I said, sure, I'll sign up. So I gave them my name, address. I never give out my phone number, but I did give out my email address. And probably within 2 months, I showed up in the consumer lifestyles database as a dog lover. So we capture, and these are the various categories that we're capturing this kind of information for. So I showed up as one of those pet lovers. Let's do this. Instead of doing a quick search, I'm going to go to advanced search so I can show you these additional filters that we have available. So again, you could look up a name. You can do a phone number lookup. What I do like to show folks is this example. We'll do your county again. I did this very search with a lady. It was last, I remember it well. It was a year ago in February, and she was actually in Phoenix, and she was part of a group that were looking to get sponsorship for an upcoming AKC event. And she wanted to do this very search. So we'll do it across your county. Give you this example here. Notice it always defaults to all per household. Well, I don't want multiple people that might be at the same address. I just want a primary. And ladies, oftentimes you'll see that the database is kind of slanted, at least as it relates to the consumer lifestyles, towards the female gender because they do so much of the shopping for the household. So that is often the reason why they might show up as this one per household search. I'm going to launch the lifestyles. And notice it gives you some information up here about a scoring system. It's 0 through 9, but we will only show you records of people who score a 6 or higher. And as I mentioned, these are all the various categories. Now, this lady in Phoenix was looking for just dog owners. Apparently, AKC doesn't invite cats. So we identified all those dog owners, and she wanted to also select some income ranges. So we grabbed that. We opened that up, and she started at 150 and went up from there. And you can see how far that goes. So she wanted to use that as a filter. And we can quickly, let's do this. Let's update our count to see what we have out there using all those filters. So nearly 10,000. Well, she doesn't intend on doing a mailing to 10,000 people, right? That's just too big. So she wanted to be able to filter that some more. And when she started talking about this AKC event, it dawned on me that if she was going to be reaching out to this universe to help support this dog event, and since these are dog lovers, one might think that they automatically would just do that, right? Well, I suggested we also use this filter for charitable donors. So you can apply that. And this is a tool that we just rolled out within the last year and a half, I suppose. You can open up this where it says show more options. And instead of selecting, well, first of all, I'll show you the count when we add these two together. So the count was 9,500. Now watch what it goes to. 60,000. Because I'm looking at any that match. Now let's do it this way. I'll select match all and see what that drops that down to. So now it's 7,500. So you can see how you can filter that. Then what she wanted to do was she just wanted to start kicking out some of these ranges in order to narrow this down, because she needed a much smaller audience. So you can see how you can do that. And once you get to your magic number, let's take out one more group. So now, let's say it's down there to almost 1,000. So I can view my results, and here's what every single record is going to look like. And right off the bat, we do give you this notice in red that any of the phone numbers that might be displayed here, they could be on the do not call list and should not be used for phone solicitation, right? So if that's the case and you intended on doing phone calls, what you would need to do is you can either contact us and tell us about the parameters that you use to build your search, and then we'll run that against the do not call registry and give you an updated list. Of course, there's a fee for that. We'll give you an updated list that you could in fact call. You could also contact the do not call registry. They do the same thing. Of course, it's their registry, right? So you could produce this list and then send it to them in Excel, and then they will in fact clean it for you and give you a new list back that you could in fact call. So, but in this case, let's look at how these records are set up. So we'll look at Ryan here. So here's all that address information. Now we're not call verifying this record. We're not calling Ryan and saying, Ryan, are you married? But everything we've seen about Ryan is that it points to the fact that he's married. Been in this household for about 17 years. There's some of that neighborhood census information. And then there are those lifestyle indicators. Now, the only reason this record came in was because he scored a 6 through a 9 as a dog lover and charitable donor, right? We added that. So charitable donor drove it in along with a dog lover. Now, if he weren't a dog lover, but he were a charitable donor, it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't be in here. This wouldn't show up if there weren't dogs. So those two have to match in order to get that produced. I had one of my librarians, I used to cover the state of Florida, had reached out to me one day a couple of years ago, and she said, Bill, I just looked up my mother-in-law, and you have on her record that she's into, technology and entertainment types of stuff. And I can tell you there's nothing further from the truth than her having that kind of interest. And so I've known this lady for a number of years, and I said, so tell me, Elizabeth, You mean to tell me that your mother-in-law has never purchased iPads or earbuds or video games for your children? And she went, oh, I didn't think about that. So if you're going to, and most people do, look themselves up, know that what you're seeing here, it can be a collective between you and your spouse, if that's the case. And it may be information that is getting ready to fall off because you're not active enough in that category again. If we looked at my record, I'm no longer a dog lover because unfortunately my dog passed away. And so I'm no longer purchasing dog food. So after 2 to 3 months of inactivity, they start looking at these categories and changing things along the way. So know that all of that information is contained on each and every record. And I'm going to revise this search just a little bit. I want to show you this same type of search, but instead of using the county designation, I'm going to use the map-based search tool. This tool is available in the business database. It's, of course, available here. Great tool to use. When you deploy this tool, you'll always want to fill in your other categories first and then open up the map. And let's do this. Sal, could you give me a zip code there in your county?
Sure. Let's do 11720.
11720. Perfect. Now you could be putting in this Zoom to field an actual address. You could be putting in a city state, obviously the zip, county state. I'll just use this zip code and it will take me to that zip code centroid for that area. Now I have these various tools that are available to me. I can draw my own shape and I get to be as creative with this shape as I want. I don't have to conform to anything that I see on the map here. It's a single click. We'll start up here for some reason. It looked good. A single click to begin it, then I go in whichever direction I want to go, right? So I don't want to make you dizzy. I'll just come right down here and I'll stop there by clicking, and then that allows me to change direction, right? Again, I can go anywhere I want. I'll come out here and I'll go over to here and I'll stop here. It's a diamond in the rough. I'll stop here, double click to finish it. And it's telling me in that shape that there are 73 results of those dog owners slash charitable donors that live in that shape. So if that's all I needed, I could say done, and then the system is ready to give me these 73 results. But I'm not quite done yet. So I'm going to erase this. And I also have the ability to do a true radius. So let's imagine for a moment that I'm a veterinarian and this point on the map is in fact my office. And maybe I'm new to the area. I'm looking for those dog lovers, and I'd probably include cats at that point, right? And gerbils. So I can click and hold it and then pull it away in any direction I want to go. You can see it's calculating in the lower right-hand corner how far out I've gone. So there's about 4 miles right there. I could let go if that's how far I wanted to go and identify that there are 75 homes that are in that area. And I had charitable donors in there at that point in time. I probably wouldn't care about that, right? I'd probably get rid of those restrictions in terms of income as well, and I'd have more results. So you get the idea of how that works. And I could even do this. You can alter anything based on your shape that you have. Let's imagine for a moment that for some reason I did not want to include this area. I can, and I'm not very good at following the line. But you can literally do anything you want to do because you get to be the driver, right? So I'm going to stop there, double click. It says there are 27 results that are part of that 75 there in this shape. I can double click in that new shape and exclude it and say, okay, and those 27 will be deducted from my 75, and I'll only get this universe. So you get to be the driver how this thing works, how it looks, how it feels, how it acts. So know that that's available. I also have these predetermined boundaries. It starts off as big as the state, could get as narrow as a neighborhood or even a postal carrier's route. I'm going to do zip codes. So there are the zip codes in the area. You can click in any zip code and it will give you how many results are in there. So know that you could use that tool, and you could be using this on the business database. Maybe these are certain types of businesses that you intend on marketing to. You could certainly do that. This tool is available in most of the modules. Notice you can also create and I'll delete these guys. You can also create a drive route. So whatever you want to use as a starting address, it could be a physical address, could be a street corner, could be from one city to another. You get to make up your minds what this starting and ending address is going to be looking like. And then you also get to choose the buffer distance. So how far off of center do you want to go? Do you want to go 1 block? Or as it notes here, it'll go a maximum of 15 miles. So if I did this, I'll just do this here in my community. So I've got Omaha here, and I've got Lincoln, Nebraska down the road. That's about 55 miles outside of Omaha. And then I've got my buffer distance. Let's say that I want to look from the center of Omaha. I don't know why I want to go from the center, but nonetheless, I want to go from the center of Omaha to the center of Lincoln, and I want to do it 0.5. So I want to go, in essence, it's a full mile, right? Because it's a half mile north, a half mile south. Create my route, it makes that route for me, and then it tells me how many results. In this case, I only have a couple of results on that map. So you can do that kind of work as well. And what's kind of cool about this, I helped a gentleman, I'm going to say Dunn here, and granted, I only have 2 records, but that's okay. He had 18 businesses that he was looking at between 2 cities in Wisconsin, and he was looking for certain types of manufacturers. So what we did was we brought up his list of 18. We went back to the heat map, and we put them all on the heat map, and then he was going to have that up in his truck and be able to go from one location to the next. So you have to drill in at this point. And you want to give it time to calculate like it's doing here when it starts spinning there. So give it time to calculate. And then the closer and you can see I'm getting closer here. And I'll kind of center my cities here. I've got Omaha here, Lincoln here. Oh, I guess both those results are only in Omaha though. So I guess I don't have to worry about going to Lincoln. Otherwise, they'd be some along there, right? I had such tight filters on. That's why it's showing those 2. So that's how my system will work in every case. And notice it's listing those 2. So you could do that on businesses as well, and then know exactly where it is that you need to be able to go to perhaps contact or reach out to businesses that are of interest to you. And then, of course, it gives me those 2 records. So know that that can be a terrific tool that you can use. I want to show you one more module real quick, and that would be the new movers, new homeowners. This can be some great information. I'll open this up and I'll go right to advanced search from this one. And I'm going to, let's do the county again. So I'll grab New York. In the county, and I'm going to say move distance and time frame, those relocation details. I'm going to open up both of those options, and I'm going to say, you know what, I don't want to know about people who've moved from across town or something like that, so I'm going to give it a move distance of 50, and we'll say 2,500. And it always defaults to the last 6 months. It could be as recent as last week or within the last year. Let's just do the last 3 months. So how many people have moved into your county from at least 50 miles away up to 2,500 miles within the last 3 months? So it's calculating my results here. 2,395 people have moved into your county in those last 3 months. Now, there's different ways that I can look at this. Home ownership. If I have a business that I work with homeowners, maybe I'm a painter, maybe I'm a carpenter, maybe I'm a yard care specialist, maybe I'm a snow removal specialist. How I'd love to get one of those. I could identify those that are confirmed homeowners. So out of this universe of 2,395, how many of them are homeowners? I've got 5 confirmed. What do I have for probable? Let's see if that bumps my number up a little bit more. Oh, so it bumps it up quite a bit. So I can get to that information. Conversely, maybe I'm a real estate agent and I want to know about these renters because I would want to reach out to those renters to let them know about my business and that I would love to earn theirs. So it just depends on how you want to frame it or need to frame it. Imagine that I've brought up this area and I own a pizza parlor down the street. I could reach out to these new people before they fall back on the old tried and trues of the Domino's or the Pizza Hut or those places. I could let them know about my great Italian pizza. Just depends on how you want to frame it. These are what they'll look like. Not nearly as much information as you saw with the consumer lifestyles. You get that same message, although rarely do you see phone numbers listed on any of these, because these are the filings that they did through the USPS, and I don't know of anybody that's ever had a phone number listed on a record. So this is, we'll just go to Margaret here real quick. Let's look at Margaret's. Somebody should have given the database a little more coffee this morning. It seems a little slow. So this person moved from 253 miles away to come into your county. I've got that estimated neighborhood information, estimated age, etc. So that's the extent of what that new movers information looks like. But granted, if I were interested in knowing about these new people in my community because I want to reach out to them about a product or a service that I have to offer, I can do that. So know there's a tremendous amount of information here available to you at your disposal all through the library. Any questions on anything that I've brought up, whether it's this type of information through the new movers, new homeowners, or any, I better just select the home key, and it seems to be taking a while to process.
There it is.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
if you have any questions, you can enter them in the chat box. I got to tell you, I've been using this database for many years. I learned some new things today, so that
Excellent.
should tell you something about how deep this database goes.
Excellent.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm seeing this was very helpful. Thank you for hosting and for your time. You're welcome, Allison. Any other questions?
If you wouldn't mind, Sal, if you could put in I can do it. I'll grab the chat
Yes.
option here real quick, and I'll put my email address in here.
That would be
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to answer your question or help you work through something that you're putting together.
That would be great. Thank you so much. And before we go, again, I want to thank Bill Carlson from Data Axle for today's program. It was fantastic and in depth. And like I said, there were things here that I did not know.
Good.
Fool around with it a little bit after the program.
Yes.
Uh,
Can't break it. It's indestructible.
It's amazing. But I also want to remind everyone that we're going to continue to do this 2 more times. We have another program coming up next month. I believe that's what is that date? Let me just make sure to confirm the date. It is a Wednesday morning, just like this one. That one's going to be a little shorter, but it's February 17th. And that is reference solutions for business expansion, which again, most of our patrons want to use this database to expand their business, of course, right, Bill?
Right. Absolutely. And we know that that's what a lot of the use is, but there are certainly lots of folks that are looking for those job opportunities, so they like using the database for that. Maybe just getting some insight about a community that they've just moved to. We don't know that maybe in our audience today were 1 or 2 of those people that have just moved to your county. So they might want to know about where things are at.
That's right.
Whether it's schools or shopping or grocery or.
Exactly. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Doesn't look like there's any more questions, but Bill's email address is there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email him, or if for some reason you need to chat with us. There was a question about how to get a membership. As long as you have a library card on Long Island, you can get a membership with the Miller Center so you can access this database. So just come down with your local library card and we'll take care of you during normal business hours. So thank you very much, Bill, for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a terrific day.
Yes, have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next month on Business Bites. Take care.